In this video, I'm going to show you how to make this, and I'm going to show you some of the challenges I had along the way. So if you want to learn how to do it, well, then follow me. What's up, Glue Dots? I'm Elaine, the Midnight Crafter. And wow, this project tonight, I gotta tell you, for one thing, I knew I wanted to use those little metal frame things forever. Didn't know what I wanted to use them for. So finally, after so long, I came up with a project for them. Secondly, have you guys ever wanted to do a clock and just were kind of paralyzed by the, I don't know how to do it, what if it's hard, what if it doesn't work, you know, those little clock movements and all that seems so easy, but I'm telling you, I wouldn't do it for years now. But you know what? Today I decided to punch fear in the face and I did it. And I'm so glad I did. Did I face challenges along the way? Absolutely. And lucky for you that I did, because now I went through it. I learned so much. And another thing reinforced in my head is every challenge we face teaches us so much. So don't be afraid of challenges and difficulties, because you learned so much from them. And I'm going to show you how to overcome that particular challenge of the clock. So I'm really excited to get to this project because it turned out as cute or cuter than I expected it to. So don't forget, please guys, check out that description box down below, because there's a lot of really important information down there that I don't want you to miss, as well as links for the products that I used in this project in case you're interested in them, contact information, as well as an entry to win a cute little bling owl keychain. So as soon as you hit that like button, we're gonna get this party started. So let's do it. The very first thing we're going to do to get started is disassemble our frames. 2 of the 3 frames we're going to entirely disassemble and remove everything. Now also for the 2 frames that we disassemble completely, we're going to be taking off and disassembling by using one of those little screwdrivers. They have these also at Dollar Tree. There's a little screw on this clip, and it's really easy to unscrew. You just remove that and this metal comes off completely. So 2 of our frames, we're gonna be entirely removing everything, clips, everything. So we're gonna have just 2 of the actual wood rectangles themselves. And then the 3rd frame, we're going to be removing just the glass and the metal and the clip, so that you will still have the frame with its backing, with the clips holding the backing in place. So with this piece that we left intact and only removed the metal and the clip from, what we're going to do now is take this piece and we're going to measure to find the center of it, and we're going to drill a hole in that I went out and grabbed my husband's drill. Don't be afraid of drills, ladies. Just go for it. That's all I can tell you. It's really not a big deal. The size of drill bit I'm using for this is 19/64. So I've gone ahead and done this already ahead of time. Want it to go through this flat piece and through the stand itself. So what we're going to do is glue this piece so it doesn't flap open. I'm using my Gorilla wood glue. I've left a link down below in case you are interested in getting some. Gorilla wood glue is really one of the strongest things you can use for wood to wood. So it's going to hold it much, much better. And then just to give a little extra security, I'm going to actually add a little bit of that wood glue in around the inside of my frame so that I can glue this piece back in. We do have the clips to hold it, but just want to have that extra security. And put your backing back in, put your little clips down to hold it in place. And then we're going to set this piece aside to dry. This is going to form the base of our little house. Next, we're going to be taking one of our empty frames here, and we're going to be using popsicle sticks to put into the back side. So all you need to do in order to do that is get your sticks and line them up. I try to find the flattest sticks of the bunch that I could find. If you are doing it vertically, it's going to take 7 sticks to go across this. Now these sticks are going to go on the inside, so don't worry about this empty space. That's going to be covered. So once you get your sticks lined up on there, take your ruler once again, line it up with the inside edge of your frame and draw a line so that you know where to cut. And do the same on the other side, and then you're going to go ahead and trim off the excess. And then when you put it in, it should fit perfectly right inside your frame. Go ahead and cut all of your pieces for that. And then once you have those cut, we're going to be gluing them in place. Again, using our handy dandy Gorilla wood glue or whatever wood glue you have. You can space them out as you like. So I have one finished here so you can see what the end result will be. And I left spaces on the sides here on the ends so that I could have them butted up together. But again, you can do it any way you like. Okay, now we're gonna set this aside to dry as well. Leave a little bit of a space so you don't go all the way to the corner, because the same way we did here, these popsicle sticks will not reach all the way across unless you do leave a little bit of a space from that corner to the first stick. Here's what we have at this point, and we're gonna let these pieces aside to dry while we work on the next piece. So now from one of the frames that we removed the inside backing, what I have done, we measured to find center on that one as well. So we do that to two of our pieces. And then what we're gonna do is flip that over and break off this back part. Now this comes off really, really easily, so you should have just one smooth backing here. This one is much more important that it is centered exactly, because this is the piece that's going to have the clock unit in it. And it just barely, with those hands, barely kind of fits around, and you do want your clock centered on here. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna Mod Podge our image on the front there. Now what I have done is I printed out this printable, which I have for you a link down below. You can find the printable for not only the sheet music part of it, but also the clock part, and I have them individually. So if you want just the clock and no sheet music, you can do that. If you want both, what you would do is print out the sheet music first and then put the paper back through your printer to print the clock on top of it. And I am going to cut out exactly on my circle of the clock. I chose white because I'm going to be using the Waverly chalk paint in white to paint my little kind of birdhouse clock house thing. So I thought this would be kind of a better match for it. Now on this printable, you will see that it has a small dot for where the center is for your clock. You do want to punch that hole through with something. And the reason we're doing that is because we do want to see where center is on our little X that we made here. So when you drill, everything matches up. So I'm going to go ahead and use my Mod Podge and center that on my base here. Just give a very light misting to the paper that I'm going to be putting on. It just kind of softens it. So I'm going to find my center dot point and place that right on the dot that I made and place my clock. We are going to set this aside to dry as well, and I'm going to clean up a bit. So while we're waiting for all our other stuff to dry, we're going to work on creating our base. And for that, we're going to take this piece that we set aside, and we're going to also use our little butterfly net here. The butterfly net we're going to want to disassemble. So all of this plastic here is going to need to come off. Okay, so we have this piece here and our base, and our plan is to attach the two together. So if you have a dowel that fits perfectly in here, that will also fit perfectly in here, perfect. That is awesome. Unfortunately, the dowels I have are a little too small or a little too big. So what I have done is I'm taking a skewer stick, a regular old skewer stick, and I've cut off 3 pieces that are about 1.5 inches long from it. And I'm going to be using those along with my wood glue and hot glue to attach the two of these things together. So I don't know if 3 will fit in here or if it's just 2. It looks to me like 2 and maybe a toothpick or something. So I know that those two fit. I'm gonna throw my wood glue on the sides and I'm gonna squeeze them in there and make sure they're pressed all the way down. So you should be able to see them through on this other side. And then we're gonna be putting a good amount of hot glue to make sure those little guys are well in place. As soon as that cools off, I'm gonna flip and do the same to the other side. Now I've added a good bit of hot glue to the back. And also I'm going to add some wood glue inside the circle, the hole of my handle, my stick here. And I'm going to place that on top and press it down as far as it goes until it is flush with this piece here. I'm going to add a little more glue as well so that it comes up onto this stick. Let this cool off really, really well, and then we should be able to work a little bit with some of our other pieces that have been drying. So at this point, we're going to work on assembling the door of our clock birdhouse to the side wall. We're going to be attaching this just here to the side, and we're going to be using these little hinges. Now I got these at Home Depot, I think for less than $1, but I will offer you links down below for options if you don't want to run to Home Depot or these various places. All the links for ways to be able to get some of these items are down below in the description box as well, just to make it easier for you. But you can always, like I said, get them at Home Depot. I've put on one hinge. I'm going to show you how I did that. And I'm going to use a combination of my E6000 and my hot glue for this. So I'm going to put a dot of E6000 right in the center here. Now the E6000 truly is the one in the long term that's going to be holding this project together, these hinges on. So make sure you do use that and not just hot glue. And then the hot glue, we're going to be putting a dot of it on each of those circles, the holes that are already there. Put the hinge down. I'm using, for those of you that know me, I love parchment paper because nothing sticks to it. So I'm using my parchment paper and placing this right down on top of it so that it can cool off. It won't stick. This parchment paper is the bomb diggity. So now I'm going to let that cool off really well. And next what we're going to do while this is cooling off is take our side piece, and you want to make sure that the good side is facing outwards. Now mark a little marking about 1/4 inch up from the bottom, because you do have the thickness of the base frame that's going to be underneath, and this door will not reach to cover the entire thing. So that's why we're doing that, and it'll make more sense later when you see what I'm talking about. It is super important to be careful with this because that E6000, as I said, really needs to cure. So fold the hinges so that they are down, and you do want to make sure when you're gluing these that you haven't glued your hinges so close that they won't fold. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to be placing these hinges on our side wall here. So when you do this, you want to also make sure that you do this with them already folded. Make markings to know exactly where you're going to glue these. Hold them here and make a little marking to know that the door still functions, and place a mark exactly where they're going to need to go. Now we'll flip this over and do the same thing with our E6000 and our hot glue. And make sure you're face up and you're facing and gluing it to the good side. Now it's very important to let this dry thoroughly because you could end up starting from ground zero again if you don't. So I'm taking a piece of wood and I'm going to put it under where the center hole is that I'm going to be drilling. And I have my drill here. I'm going to make sure it is in place. Put some good pressure, and that's that. Now we can work on assembling our birdhouse. So we have the piece here with the extra popsicle sticks glued on, and we have our piece with the door, and we're going to be attaching all of those to make the box shape. But we do also need the base. That's already attached to our stick here. So the stick is going to have to kind of hang off the table, obviously, because it's in the way. And then we'll be attaching first the piece with the door. So do a little bit of alternating here, placing dots of your wood glue, and then you're going to do your hot glue in between. and attach that to the side, making sure that it is flush front and back. We're going to let that hot glue dry to hold that in place, and then we're going to be attaching this piece here. Okay, so now we want these pieces here, the ends of these sticks, to go on the inside of this frame here. So I'm going to add my wood glue to the inside, and then I will also be adding it here the same way I did on the other piece. And then I'm going to be adding my hot glue over here as well. So everything is now put together. What I did, I noticed when I first put the pieces together, my back wall slats were a little bit crooked. So I adjusted those into place, and then I gave it a line of hot glue on the inside just to hold those. Because remember, we had only used the wood glue in there, so they weren't necessarily positioned where they needed to be against this other side wall. So now we pretty much have everything assembled for the most part here, and we're going to be getting to one other step here that we want to do ahead. This little door will swing open and does not have good closure, so what I'm going to be doing is just making a little closure for it. So I'm going to make this closure by using one of the screws that came with our hinges. Now I did, by the way, I forgot to let you know, these hinges are 3/4 inch by 11/16 inch. So I'm taking one of the screws from that, and I'm going to screw that into the side here of my outside frame. You don't want to screw it all the way in. You want this sticking out because we're going to make a little loop with twine on the front, and we're going to be attaching that loop that we create on our door so that it comes around and hooks on the little screw here that we just put in. So next, we're going to be putting this into the stand, and while it's in the stand, we'll make it really easy to paint and attach the roof. For the stand, I'm going to be using this galvanized bucket from Dollar Tree and some of this floral foam. So I'm going to use a good amount of hot glue in the bottom of this to glue this floral foam in place. And with this extra piece of floral foam that I have, I'm going to shove that into the side so that I can kind of make this as sturdy as possible. It's real important for this to be really sturdy because this is what's going to be holding the entire little house up. So if this wobbles, so will the house. Now I'm going to take and add some extra hot glue around the base to make sure that this doesn't come out and doesn't wobble. Then for a little extra added weight, you're going to add some rocks or any kind of heavy, anything you have that can weight this down. So I was originally going to put moss down here, but I think I'm going to use rocks because I started to really like the way it looks. So I'm going to do not only the rocks, but I'm going to also maybe throw in a little bit of some greenery and maybe a little bit of lavender sprigs and whatever. You can decorate this bottom part however you would like. So I'm going to start now on some of the painting, and I'm going to be doing it, I think initially a little bit of kind of a dry brushing effect to it and let some of that wood show through and try and sort of blend it into my clock. And then once I kind of get this area done, I'm going to move around and sort of do the same thing to the rest of the box. So now we're going to be working on making the little door latch for this. Here, remember we put our screw in there. I've taken a piece of twine, probably about 6 or 7 inches long, and then I'm going to make a loop and tie a little knot, just like this. And don't make your knot too tight initially because we want to make sure that it will not only hook there, but that it would also reach around and see how much length we need. So kind of tighten as you go, and do remember that you do not want your twine to touch the number because you don't want it to get in the way of the clock hands. So you want it to be a little bit away from that. So once you have the right size loop, hook it on there. And remember, you need to leave a little bit loose so you'll be able to unhook it. Don't forget that. Then add your hot glue and glue your little knot down in place. So here's our cute little primitive but adorable latch for our door. Now we're going to be working on the roof. So you're going to take the two metal pieces that you have, and what we're going to do is flip those over so that we have them upside down, and we're going to be taping them together with Scotch tape temporarily. So line them up next to each other. This way they will have a little bit of flexibility there. Once we have our roof pieces lined up, we're going to be putting them on top. You want to decide, do you want the roof to be toward the front, or do you want it to be toward the back and have a bigger opening here in front? The options for this, there are so many. If you don't want to put a clock on here, you can just do a fake clock. What we're going to be doing right now is I'm going to be putting my roof forward and attaching it as much towards the front as possible. And I'm going to do that putting a bead of hot glue and some E6000 as well. And then put the one side of the roof in place. Get the other side going and get that in place. And then we're going to add a little more to the top of the roof. Okay. Now onto this roof part. All that's holding it right now is the Scotch tape. So what I'm going to do is use some of my twine, or if you want to use nautical rope that's a little thicker. I really like this kind of a cross between nautical rope and twine that I got, I believe, from Walmart. What you can do if you do not have that, but if you'd like something a little thicker, use a few strands of your twine and just twist them together. I'm going to be attaching with the E6000 and the hot glue again, my little thicker twine that I have. Now you can do a couple of strands if you want to, and it will probably give a little more hold as well. Are you getting value out of this channel? Are you getting value out of this project? Give me a thumbs up if you're enjoying this, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button too and join the Glued Out family. So the next thing I'm going to do is be creating a bow, and I'm using this really cool sort of rustic looking ribbon from Dollar Tree. I'm going to be attaching this bow to the underneath side here. Then I'm going to be sort of draping this, and because this is wired ribbon, it works really well for this. I will be kind of draping this and wrapping it and kind of gluing it as I go. Okay, we're to the fun part and the finishing touches. Okay, guys, so like I told you, I've never done a clock thing before, and I've always been intimidated by it. So, you know, I'm right there with you. So here we go. We're going to take the clock and push it through the hole in the back side. And that's the reason we made a door in the first place, is to be able to change the batteries on our clock. And then, I don't know, because no instructions came with this, I'm assuming we go small hand, big hand, and then this last little piece here has a kind of a little part that sticks out, I should say, and we're going to push that right in to the hole. Or do we screw it in? I don't even know. Okay, well that doesn't look right. Let me check this out a little and I'll get back to you in a second. Okay guys, so in typical Elaine style, when all else fails, read the directions, which there were no directions. So I did a little bit of research here. Now, when you get this clock piece, there is a nut, and then there is a little washer, and then there also is a black rubber washer that's on there. So the black rubber washer stays on there, and then you're going to put this little hook side up. I mean, it doesn't really matter. Normally that would be used if you want to use that to hang your clock. This is not going to be hanging, so it doesn't really matter. And then we're going to put the clock in through the hole from the back. And then we're going to put on the little brass washer and the little nut that came with it. You guys, I have been intimidated by doing a clock thing for so long. So, you know, I take everything as, I've said it before, every difficulty creates learning. So I'm kind of, though it was frustrating and I thought my video was just gonna be hijacked. This was a great learning thing. So we have the 3 hands here, and the one with the largest hole is the one that goes on first, and that is the hour hand. Now, I was having trouble getting it on and it was just floppy, but I discovered that on this little white piece that sticks out here, there are very small little ridges. So this first piece needs to go down on there, and it's a little bit difficult to press on, and I was trying and not realizing that it had to get pushed on there. So get it on there until it is solidly in place and not moving. Then take your next hand, which is the minute hand, and you're going to do the same thing with that, and there's another little ledge that one will reach to. So make sure that's on there. Then, last but not least, goes the second hand. The second hand has a little piece that sticks up there, and in the center here of this hole, there's a little, like a pin. So this piece is going to go and get pressed directly on to that pin and snap in place. Now I have to make sure also that that hand is not bent either, so that all 3, when we're looking at them sideways, that all 3 of the hands here are like this and not crisscrossed in any way. Okay, so I'm going to put in the battery and get this thing set, and I am super excited that it worked, you guys, and we all learned something today, me included. So please, please, please do not be intimidated by making a clock, doing a clock hand. It's been years that I've wanted to do it and never have, and you know, it was so easy. So I'll put in the battery, I'm gonna get this thing displayed and show you what a cool project we came up with. Let me know what you think. Are you gonna try, or are you gonna wimp out on me and not try making a clock? And who's gonna try the drill? Let's go for it, ladies, we got this.